This sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds okay.
Like, I don't know.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
Hello.
Hello, YouTube.
And wherever you are listening or watching.
It's true.
Hi, Connor.
Hello, Matthew.
How you doing?
It's a weekend.
It's true.
You shouldn't be stressed on the weekend.
Wish I could say the same.
Yeah, here we are for another anime of the month, the second
last
of the
which
year.
is crazy.
Yeah, November flew by.
I agree.
November flew by.
Like,
was shorter though in terms of how many podcast episodes came out.
Yeah, but
We've had a couple long months.
It's true.
In terms of the way the podcast has ended up working out to how many episodes were in a month, but
we're chilling now.
Here we are, another anime of the month episode. If you're new around here, every month at the start of the month. Well, I guess technically it's the end of the month.
End of the month previous, we discussed what anime we're going to be watching next month, so we can talk about it at the end of the month, which is what you're listening to now.
Yes, and we do have a Discord, the link tree for which is in the description down below. You can join our Discord, and you can be part of the conversation if you want to have kind of your 2 cents. We have no problem bringing it up on the podcast.
Heck yeah.
Fun fact, actually, we have 2 new Nerdy Misfit members. If you don't know about them, they actually are running a different YouTube channel called the Nerdy Misfit Gaming, and that's Eddie and Troy, who will be joining us for the final month of the anime of the month.
So, and also the final episode of 2024.
Yes, because that's actually how it ends up working out, which is
whack. Not planned.
Not
planned that way. At all, but
yeah, they'll be part of it. They won't be on the main podcast, but they'll be kind of giving their own little 5-minute segment, if you will, of what they thought about the anime of the month for December. But before we get into that,
we got some other big news. The news that I was very shocked to see.
I wasn't so shocked to see this because
I didn't know it was happening though.
Oh, you're more shocked that we got the announcement of the 3rd season.
Yeah.
In general. Okay.
Yeah. So if you didn't know, there's a show on Disney Plus called Star Wars Visions, and season 3 is coming out now. First season. So first off, before anything else, Star Wars Vision is it's
kind of one of my favorites so far.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's an anthology style Star Wars series done usually 8, I believe. I think it's 8 episodes a season, 8 to 10. And they're all done by different animation studios. Now, the first season was all Japanese art studios, which will have a few come back for season 3. And then season 2 was international animation studios from around the world. There was some Japanese, there was some UK, there was some African, I believe there was a French company. It was insane. And all the animation is so unique.
And it's fun because we get to see people studios and people who clearly enjoy Star Wars get to be involved in something that they like.
Exactly.
And you can really see it come through in a lot of the episodes where you can just tell they're just so happy to be working on something Star Wars related.
It is.
And not just that, but obviously it's not necessarily related to the Skywalker saga. It's just unique.
Expanded.
Yeah.
There was a whole episode about just pod racing.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's just getting to see expanded lore and in different unique styles, which is fun.
There's some really I still remember probably one of my favorite episodes of both seasons is episode 1 of season 1. It's the Ronin.
Oh, the Ronin episode's
and it's
really
just
good.
the sepia, black and white, and then just the colors of red is just so good. I mean, that got its own novel too. Goes to show
how popular
you,
it was. People really liked it.
But yeah, so then season 3 got greenlit. It's coming out, I think, 2025, probably late 2025. I think the last 2 times it's come out around November, December area.
Mm-hmm.
And we got more Japanese-based studios, and some of them are ones that, if you're an anime fan, you are quite familiar with.
Yeah, you've probably heard of.
So we got Production IG,
yeah,
which is huge. We got, I cannot zoom in this picture, Q something. 1 second. Project Studio Q.
Yep.
Trigger.
I'm excited for Trigger.
That one's going to be great.
They're literally in space.
Yeah. So Wit Studio, which is another huge one. Those 4
Wit, when they do something, they put a lot of effort into it. So some pretty massive Japanese studios for sure. Excited to see what their take is on Star Wars. what stories they'll be bringing to life, and we will also be covering
Oh, definitely.
season 3. I think early January. So is
Whenever it comes out.
we have it slotted. I think for early January.
Is it greenlit to when it comes out though?
I don't know.
I don't think it's out yet though. Like I don't think it comes out until like later.
Me no know. Me no make the schedule. Matt makes the schedule.
Make the schedule. Yeah, it will. It's the actual show comes out sometime 2025.
Okay, but we will be covering.
But we will be covering it. Yeah,
for sure.
If you are a fan of something, say like Marvel What If, then this is something because it's all just.
I think it's
one-offs.
better than What If.
Oh, it is better than What If for sure. Because it's a lot of just one-off stories of really fun characters. If you haven't watched season 1 or season 2 of Visions, and
Definitely
you are a Star
watch it.
Wars fan,
Not that you have to for
not that you have to, but there are some really fun stories
for sure.
And yeah, so that's one of the big news.
Second big thing is, as of recording this episode, the second season of Arcane, which is Riot's television series based in the League of Legends lore,
Available on Netflix.
I think it was the largest budget for a animated TV series.
That's crazy.
At like $250 million for the two seasons that they did. But yeah, that's wrapped up as of recording this. So we will be covering Arcane actually in next week's episode. And we will be covering Arcane as a whole, maybe some future implications, etc. But obviously with a majority focus on the season 2 that just wrapped up. Join our Discord, like we said, to let us know what you thought of the series, if you watched it, if you're gonna watch it, and or come below and on this podcast and let us know. What you guys think of Arcane, and are you excited to listen/watch our episode on it? Because I know I'm pretty excited.
I'm very intrigued because you come from League of Legends.
You
know
not
League
that
of
you
Legends.
you do not need to play League of Legends to enjoy the show. Obviously, for once, we're gonna be reversed because I'm gonna be the one bringing all the Easter egg content.
I was gonna say there's got to be so many Easter eggs.
Oh yeah, I'll be bringing the Easter egg content, and you just write what you enjoy or don't enjoy from the series.
It's gonna be fun.
I will say music throughout the series, incredible. The animation is incredible.
I was on Spotify the other day, and the 21 Pilots song that they did for the show just came through, and I was like, I did not know, because obviously season 1 is Imagine Dragons, I believe.
They still do the opening.
Okay. Yeah. Which is a banger.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what Matt thinks. Just going in blind, really.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
Which I think is going to be a really cool perspective to see.
Yeah.
Someone that... Because... Something Riot is known for is how messy the lore has been, how it's been reworked multiple times. It's like, it's a mess.
Okay.
So Arcane's kind of finally one where it's like,
this is the lore, take it or leave it kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So some things have been adjusted for Arcane, and you just have to accept that in League. But it is cool if you do have some of that broken lore knowledge, because some of it is relevant. So definitely excited to cover that in next week's episode.
Yeah. And with all that out of the way, we are going to discuss the anime of the month we watched for November. Now, full disclosure on this anime, I usually make the schedule of when what we're recording, when we're recording. Connor traditionally picks the anime of the month.
I give a list.
You give a list, and you tell me to pick it. And for some reason, he let me pick this one. But this was not on his list. This was fully me. I was like, hey, this sounds interesting. Let's give it a watch. And from here on out, Connor will go back to...
It's not... Hey, I don't stop Matt from picking anything. I was totally like, all right, we'll watch it. Let's give it a go. Matt's just saying that because perhaps this might be our lowest rated show we've watched for the year.
I think it might be to it.
But I think for us.
Yeah.
From a Mal perspective, I think it also is. But either way, hey, you got to change things up.
Exactly.
Try something different.
So without further ado, the show is called Hamatora, the animation.
Hamatora, the animation. Do you want to break down?
Yeah, I'll break. I got the whole spiel here. You're looking at a show that came out 10 years ago of winter 2014. 2 seasons. We only watched the first season for the sake of this. 12 episodes. The studio is Naz. N-A-Z.
Yeah, they don't have much.
The name doesn't sound familiar on the top of my head. The genre is action, mystery. The MyAnimeList score based on 131,488 users is sitting at a 7.24. Which all
for
those
Mal
details sounds
standards,
decent.
For Mal standards, 7 may as well be a 5.
I don't know about that.
Really? You don't? I think a lot of MyAnimeList users see something that's mid and give it a 7.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And so for me, like 7 is like average in mal terms. Like 7 is just like, it was average.
Well, I think like 7 is average. 5 is like, don't waste your time.
If you go by specific, well, obviously everyone rates things differently. Some people just base it on, did you like it? Did you not like it?
Yeah.
Obviously. There's elements to, and some people like will break it down into the elements that make up an anime, you know, music, and kind of like what we do when we're doing this episode. If you look at what Mal says, though, by their system, it goes 1 to 10, and it goes appalling, horrible, very bad, bad, average, fine, good, very good, great, masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So 7, by what Mal, the website says, is good. 5 is average.
That is fair. But it's confusing. It's hard when you watch.
But everyone wants to give something an okay grade because they're like, watch the whole thing. Like, obviously, it's not awful.
Mm-hmm. But it's crazy to think that, like,
I just think overall, and this could be maybe a topic for a later date, I think a lot of Mal scores are a lot higher than expected.
Yeah, but I could also make the argument for certain shows that we really enjoy are a little bit lower. Like, for example, so like we take this show, for example, sitting at 7.24.
Yeah.
Okay? And you're saying like 7 is really just like, if it's a 7, it might as well be a 5. Do you include the 0.5? Like if it's 7.5 or above, do you think it should be classified as an 8?
No.
Because like
a lot for me, so
if it's an 8, it should be an 8.
When I took Mal stuff way too seriously, I had an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, I remember.
Where I had like, and I was ranking the art style, the animation, the plot, the characters, et cetera, et cetera.
More aggressive than we do for
and
this.
Enjoyment, because the thing is, at the end of the day, anime is for fun. It's for enjoying, right? So that's an important part of the equation.
Yeah.
But I didn't want my bias to affect what I was giving it as a grade.
Yeah.
So what I did was I made that spreadsheet, and it averaged all the grades. One of those affecting it, obviously, being enjoyment.
Yeah.
So it could be like a great example is actually Naruto Shippuden.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a 10 out of 10 anime?
No.
Do I 10 out of 10 enjoy Naruto? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to give it a 10.
No, for sure.
So that's kind of my way of equaling it out, kind of averaging all the things to get that score. Unfortunately, my anime doesn't have 0.5s.
I wish it did.
I wish it did have a decimal grading, but it doesn't. So I kind of take it into my own consideration.
That's fair.
If it's in that 7.5-ish range, I go, is it good enough to go up to an 8? If it's not, then I round down. Even it could be a 7.7. And if I don't think it cracks that 8, I'll still round down.
Dang. Because I'm like looking, like I pulled up one of the animes we watched in the previous months of Anime of the Month, and this anime is sitting at a 7.83.
Okay.
And like, to me, I'm like, oh, that's at least an 8. Like, I really enjoyed this show.
And what series is that?
91 Days.
91 Days, yes.
So, because to me, I'm like, oh, that should be higher than a 7.8.
Right.
But again, that's it. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, like,
that's also more users.
That is true. You are looking at a double amount of numbers.
Right. So that can also
that's also a factor too, right?
And personally, I only gave it an 8, and that's really not far off.
It's true. That's what I mean. So like, that's where it comes. Like, when do you like?
Because I don't think that that's far off of what I've given it. Right. So if you consider that at not saying like obviously my isn't law in terms of what I think, but if I'm giving it an 8, that's like I think it's an 8. So it doesn't surprise me that there's probably a chunk of people that are like 7, 6. And yeah, so I expect it to be probably a little lower or potentially the opposite way, maybe like 0.25 higher. I wouldn't be surprised to see it at 8.25 or like in that 7.75 area.
Yeah, I feel like you need like a little bit of a range, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what when I give something a rank and it kind of fits within a grade.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see both sides for sure. This one, I think I'm going to be a little bit more off.
I would agree.
But part of it, I think, is because I don't believe people are watching this show anymore.
That's fair.
I
would
think
agree with that.
Like the majority of that 130,000 people
was definitely during 2014.
I think a peak of that obviously is when it aired.
Yeah.
And that's that's kind of it. I don't think there's that many thousands of people still trying to watch this show.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's not like it's a Hunter x Hunter where like it's just constantly going up.
It has a huge fan base. People want more. Like this is done and over with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I think like it's not something like that's a higher up top 10 or top 10 in popularity. You're going to see that grade fluctuate, especially as more and more people go. Like when we first started watching stuff and actually going on my anime list and putting stuff, the top one was would have been Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and it was at like
9 point.
Like it was like 9.3 or something.
Yeah.
Like it was high, and it's dropped pretty not like significantly, but like it's 9.09. It's almost no long. Like it's cruising down to no longer being even 9,
which is crazy to think.
Right? Like so. As time goes on, as more and more people watch a series, that's 3.4 million people that are on FMA, right? There's obviously going to be that
people that are like, that's not good.
The chunk that don't like it, or maybe it was overhyped for them.
Which is something you have to deal with when it comes to the anime community for sure.
Just anything, any fandom, right? Like, you love Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah, but then
you look at everyone ranked Captain America 2 so high.
Yeah, they thought it was the best Marvel movie at the time.
And you're like, it was like...
It was a good movie.
Yeah, it was good. Like 8.
Yeah.
Like 8.5, right?
Yeah.
So people like that would bring down the average grade of Winter Soldier.
Still good, but it's just overhyped.
For you.
Yeah, for me personally. Yeah.
So I just think that's like a whole other tangent, but maybe we'll have some discussion on. Maybe like we'll look at some different anime websites and their scoring systems, and maybe the Mal is also it feels like it's the biggest.
Yeah, definitely.
And with that comes a lot more casual people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not going to go into breaking down like the complexity of the algorithm that actually figures out the score, because obviously it isn't as simple as the average score of 900,000 people.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that goes into it than that. So maybe another discussion for another time.
Jumping back into the anime of the month here, Hamatora, the animation. I'll give you a little synopsis here, and then we'll break it down, the usual. This is it. The ability to create miracles is not just a supernatural phenomenon. It is a gift which manifests in a limited number of human beings. Minimum, or small miracles, are special powers that only selected people called minimum holders possess. The detective agency, Yokohama Troubleshooting, or Hamatora for short, is composed of the minimum holder PI duo Nice and Murasaki. Their office is a lone table at Cafe Nowhere, where the pair and their coworkers await new clients. Sounds pretty good. Suddenly, the jobs that they begin to receive seem to have strange connections to the serial killer whom their friend Art, a police officer, is searching for. Their murder victims share a single similarity. They are all minimum holders. Nice and Murasaki, as holders themselves, are drawn to the case. But what exactly is the link between Nice and the one who orchestrates it all? This sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds okay.
Like, I don't know.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I can see why you were piqued. Your interest was, as they say, piqued. I see you wrote down main characters. They're kind of like, obviously Nice is probably the main character.
Murasaki did not feel that main, but I put him in there.
He had moments for sure.
He had moments for sure, yeah, but so did the rest of the supporting characters.
Most of the group for sure. I guess we'll go through our initial thoughts, and I think nothing better than, I guess, literally the first impression, which is I watched the first episode, and I messaged Matt, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be a long one, I think. That was literally my initial impression was, oh, no. This is going to feel like one of those 12 episodes that feels like 36 episodes. Hilarious. I was telling Matt, I actually wrapped this anime up today, as of the day of recording, a few hours before. We fill out a sheet as we go, and so a lot of my thoughts were already kind of written down, had them on paper or virtual paper. And yesterday I was watching some shows, and I finished all of Arcane, which are like 40-minute episodes.
Yep.
3 of them. I watched 6 episodes of a new show I hadn't watched yet, and I still had 6 episodes of this to watch. And I just didn't want to watch. And it just made me think, wow, when you like a show, 6 episodes feels like nothing.
Yeah.
When you're not enjoying a show, wow, 6 episodes is long.
It's a lot.
But I got there. Other than that, I know this one, it's more of personal taste.
Yeah.
I was not as big a fan of some of the filters that they used for some of the animation when powers are being used. I also saw a lot of like the negative filter being used as well, which I think is like, I've talked to Matt about this, but it feels almost like lazy or a rookie crutch, if you will, to make stuff look cool. And I'm just not a big fan of that.
I think
other than that, it did come off as very generic.
Yeah.
Like if we weren't watching for anime of the month, I think I already drop it before I even get to episode 3.
Do you think you would feel the same way? I guess we weren't watching as much anime as we were now 10 years ago. But like the cliches and stuff that we see through this anime now, I think of like that around the time of 2014. It's some anime that were out around that time. I'm like, oh, this would like these seem like a lot of cliches for me.
Yeah,
right.
They are. I mean, and because they are. I mean,
they
literally
are, especially now.
We have even the designs. One of the characters literally looks like Vash the Stampede.
Mm-hmm.
From like behind, he's got the red like trench jacket and everything. You're like, okay, well, we know where his inspiration comes from.
I mean, I'm curious what other anime was on at this time. Now that I say that, Space Dandy.
2014 had Noragami.
Yep.
If you want to just
That's the big
cool,
one.
decent shonen, you could have been watching that. Chunibyo had better animation during its pop-offs. Defrag. So there was
definitely options for sure.
There was some good stuff. No Game No Life aired in 2014, not the same season. Haiku started in 2014. Part 3 of JoJo was going on. So there were options.
That's fair.
It's not like, oh, it's good for its time. No,
Yeah.
there were definitely some way significantly better series going on. Even going to the 2013 fall season previous to that, you had Kill la Kill, which means Kill la Kill is probably carrying over and still going on that season.
That's true.
Log Horizon. Kuroko no Basket.
Some big ones.
Yeah. So doesn't got that going for it.
Dang.
There just was significantly better things to be watching.
That's fair.
In my opinion.
Yeah, in your opinion. Yeah.
In my opinion. I mean, if you like it, that's
All
great.
part
There
two.
were definitely I'm not saying it was all bad, and I'm not even saying the series was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying for me, at the end of the day,
wasn't your cup of tea.
it was like, it was too generic, and it was like, you could be watching something else. Why waste your time on this when you can be watching something very similar feeling that would still kind of hit all those buttons that you want to be hit,
Yeah.
but be better? How about you? What was your initial thoughts? Especially since you're the one who picked it out.
Yeah,
Were
I did
you
pick it.
Initially disappointed, or you're like, okay, I'm kind of into it.
I mean, after the first episode, I was like, okay, like it set up things okay.
Yep.
Where I'm like, okay, here's some of your main characters. They
Like to
got
see
some
a power be
powers.
used, yeah.
Here's some like it's not fully revealed what his power is at the first episode.
Yeah.
So I think that's what from like I'm a big X-Men fan. I'm like, oh, I'm really curious how like what his power really is, where's it come from, and stuff like that. And then the second episode happened. And throughout the second episode, you have like the teacher who's behind the bullying of the one kid, and I was like, that's weird.
That was an interesting
But,
twist.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And then the second episode ends with a bunch of brains just in jars, basically. And at that point, I was like, okay, it's got my curiosity enough that I want to keep watching.
Some of the mystery elements were decent.
Yeah,
They definitely were
the setups were good.
good enough to keep you kind of going, okay, I kind of want to know what happens
Mm-hmm.
next. But at the same time, some of the mystery elements were also very played out. You knew what was going to happen. You can't. I think there was maybe 2 twists that you kind of didn't expect,
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, you can kind of connect the dots as you were going.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't expect Art to die in episode 5.
Yeah, that was one of them.
That one I was like, oh. Because like episode 3 and 4 were like kind of met, and then episode 5 happens, and like Nice is trying to contact Art, and he's just like ignoring him. And then you see the villain of the show, and they're in like the graveyard, and you kind of get a little bit more information about the police officer and how he doesn't actually have like a power per se, and like he still went to the secret school, but it didn't make sense kind of thing. And then he just gets killed. And at that point, I'm like, okay, like I want to keep watching.
Yep. You wanted to see him get resurrected.
I don't know if resurrect is the right word, but I was like, okay, I'm curious how the rest of the story was going to play out.
All right, fair enough.
Moving on, art style and character design. I mean, all the characters look different.
Yeah, but that's
They didn't blend into their backgrounds.
I thought the color
Uh,
palette was good.
Yeah.
It helped some characters stand out. That's probably the only positive thing about it.
Hmm.
The character designs, for the most part, nothing really stood out. They were all pretty generic.
Nothing special. Yeah.
Definitely nothing special. Some of them obviously using, like we said, inspiration. We have like a Vash the Stampede-esque looking character.
I did
We
enjoy.
got the character with a eye patch. There were just some tropes that were obviously there, and just,
one of every trope.
just nothing that felt like, wow, that character. Like Nice has headphones. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, they went all out.
I would say probably the art style, like the best part of the art style of everything, and it was a particular location, was like the nowhere, like where their office was. Like I
Yeah.
thought the bar aesthetic was nice.
The bar /
Coffee shop, but
Yeah.
I think I don't.
It was both. Clearly.
Yeah, it was weird.
He was always grinding beans.
every single time,
They probably just used the same animation
over and over again.
But yeah, I think the most positive thing from the art perspective is probably the color palette.
Mm.
A lot of the main cast has some pretty cool colors to them. But yeah, I got nothing else really to say about art style and character design. It was just
Yeah, I mean the animation, same thing. Like nothing was insane. I overly enjoyed the idea of using that like the colorful palette.
that almost like rainbow.
Yeah, to show that like a power is about to happen or the power is going to happen.
Yeah, because we haven't mentioned it, but the powers, the minimums they're called in this, which
Yeah.
is the power system, they had to have a prerequisite met before that power is being used.
Mm-hmm.
We see someone like that has to chew gum. We see one of the characters takes his glasses off, and that's how he activates his power. Nice. It's based on his snapping,
Yeah.
but he likes to put his headphones on. I don't know if that's particular because he wants to be able to focus on the snap. I'm not
Yeah,
too sure.
the way I
'Cause-
thought it was like his initial like sound, he hears it and needs to block out every other sound so that sound can be repetitive in his head maybe.
Because that one doesn't get explained as thoroughly as some of the other ones, or just kind
Yeah.
of make sense. And I think the point is we're baited into thinking he needs the headphones, which in the final fight he doesn't.
Yeah.
But there's something that there's one person who has a stopwatch, and they can only use their powers when they're holding the stopwatch. Stuff like that. As to like a prerequisite needs to be met to use their power.
I thought that was different.
that's something that I thought was
yeah.
unique for a power system. And yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought it was interesting at first, but then it kept getting you, and I was like, I just didn't like it. My eyes didn't like it as much
Yeah.
either. Like it kind of was hard on the eyes, and since it actually wasn't the smoothest animation, because the animation overall was kind of
Average.
It was very mid. There were definitely scenes where you kind of see a very much like a instead of like someone running or like the flow, like it just
Yeah.
So that probably didn't help that it wasn't smooth with it either.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it wouldn't get a really high animation score. It was very run of the mill, and like we just said, we were just looking at other Haiku, Kill la Kill, like there's
Yeah, well done animations,
Yeah.
you know.
unreal. Obviously, those are some from a lot bigger studios as
Yeah.
well, but it just it didn't even pop off in scenes that you would like expect. You know, sometimes maybe they're saving money for a really cool scene, but I think in the final fight, there's one moment where we see the effect where rain's falling and they stop the rain,
Yeah.
and we see the effect only in the drops.
I
That was
thought
cool.
that was cool.
That was cool. But that was it. That was the only. A lot of the fights were kind of underwhelming, and that's kind of. I feel like they were using the speed as a cheat way for a lot of the fights. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, snap, bang, we blink them here because
Yeah.
we don't need to animate it.
Yeah.
And then it's like punch, and it was always like a one hit.
Yeah. Yeah. KO, one punch,
Yeah.
done.
So a lot of the fights were kind of underwhelming for animation for sure.
Jump to music. I mean, I enjoy the music overall. Like I thought it fit the vibe of the show.
I thought the music fit. It also was, but at the same time, it was and we mentioned this for some of the shows in the past, which there's almost where you don't notice it because it's sometimes you only notice it when it's bad.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice anything because it was bad, but it
But
also
nothing
wasn't
crazy. Either.
Yeah, it definitely didn't stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Like very forgettable. I guess honestly, the show in general kind of fits that vibe of just like it falls a bit flat overall and just kind of forgettable.
That's fair.
And I think the OST just lines up with that as well.
I mean, yeah, for me, mostly I would say similar things where I'm like the music throughout the show like help keep the pace of the show. Like there was never an episode where I'm like, oh, I just need this episode to end because of how slow it's being told, right?
Yeah, like the pacing of the show was good. Yeah.
Let's jump to, I guess your plot thing kind of ties in with the positives and negatives as well.
Yeah, we can we can do positive and negatives and then jump more in depth with the plot elements.
Yeah. Positives, I mean the music for the show, like I said, I enjoyed some of the fight scenes, though they were colorful. I did find a lot of the episodes are like plot twists. A lot of the episodes had plot twists by the end of it, so that kind of helped me keep going.
Yeah, they're like heavily relying on leaving you on cliffhangers,
which was fine. I think that's really fun storytelling,
and that's used in all media.
Yeah,
all TV shows, a lot of them, especially if they're episodic but have an overarching story. A lot of them will kind of leave you like, this is what we did, like
especially with the end of season 1. Like I didn't expect
the Flash.
That. Oh yeah,
right. Like, oh, we're fighting the bad guy of the day.
But by the way, this is going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then
Harrison Wells shows up somehow
it's like,
doing
something.
something.
I gotta watch the Flash next week.
Exactly. You know, I feel like it definitely a lot of the episodes did have that effect.
That's just I guess
superhero
run of the mill storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, the positives. I think some of the supporting characters were interesting. Like 3, I found super interesting when we got like his backstory episode with kind of him, because when he gets introduced, he's just like that cliche like bodyguard, gotta protect that little girl that's kind of annoying, and no one really wants to be her friend because of how annoying she is, but she can't protect herself kind of thing, but she wants to protect herself.
But we didn't get as good of a story as like we didn't really get how he met. Like we see him meet her as a kid,
but yeah, we don't
really get any more.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate because it was a pretty interesting deep dive into a character.
Yeah, because especially when you just see him as like that brute force, and then they're like, oh, I don't know where he goes, and then it's revealed that he's going to an orphanage that he runs. I'm like, okay, that's cute, whatever. And then it gets revealed that all the children at the orphanage is from all of the families he killed as a mercenary, which to me I'm like, okay. Like, that's something I'm not,
and he's teaching them how to kill him.
Which is insane. That's where I was like, man, I want more on him. Like,
yeah, that's
he's
wild.
teaching the next generation on how to just kill him eventually.
To get their revenge.
Because
they'll figure out who did kill their parents, and then they'll know how to which Honey is like, nope, we're stopping that. That's wrong. Yeah. So, for me, positives.
That it's over.
Yeah, that's one of them. My positive is the power system in terms of the unique, like we mentioned, the unique feeling of the prerequisite that needs to be met. It's not like you just do it. It's I have this condition needs to be met for me to activate my power. Yeah. I thought that was cool. Characters that I didn't hate. I did enjoy Murasaki, who is the character that is kind of like the Trigun. He kind of has the Vash look.
Yeah.
To him. I liked kind of his motivations of why he was there, what he was trying to do. He's trying to like always compete against, kind of like the rival to Nice in a way, where he's trying. Nice is always above him, and he's always trying to be like, I will beat you one day, and like we'll be standing at the same footing kind of thing. And I didn't hate Hajima or whatever her name is.
Okay, yeah.
She was like your very generic, small, cute character that had a couple funny moments that likes to eat a lot. So she had some good moments where I actually let out a little chuckle, but she's still a very like copy pasta character. We see that in a lot of anime. We also see that kind of style rival character who's trying to live up to the main character. Yeah. So not exactly unique characters, but I did like some of them.
Yeah.
For negatives, I put I don't want to like completely dump on the series. So for negatives, I just put when we get into the plot and stuff, I'll get more in depth on the overall negatives of things I didn't like.
Yeah.
But I guess my biggest negative is just you can just watch something else. You can get all the same things.
Yeah.
From just a different show, and it's just gonna be better.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? And I think that's just
how it is.
Just why? Just why watch this when you could watch or read My Hero? Or,
yeah.
My Hero is got powers, and I think in the world the power system makes more sense.
More or less, yeah.
And the world's obviously a lot more developed. Obviously, it's a longer series as well.
Mm-hmm.
But also there are mystery elements within My Hero that you're trying to figure out. There's also much better written foreshadowing for a lot of those events as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just much better series, especially now.
Oh, yeah. 10 years later.
We are spoiled
completely
for
different
options.
ballgame.
There are hundreds of great anime to watch.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, there's just no reason to watch this.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing an anime month about it and you want to join us, which case,
Here we are.
thank you for joining us.
I'll keep my negatives to the short too. I say some supporting characters I didn't care for, some smaller stories I didn't like or care for, aka the purple teenage Hulk boy. I didn't really care for him because we talked about this off the podcast, but his story didn't really make sense with his mom.
His mom's story didn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm
His
tying
made
them
sense.
together.
His mom was super negative, and he's like, I just want to, be
I just want
stronger.
to fit
So,
in and feel
so
strong.
yeah, so he gets his powers. His return was a bit weird,
That's what I mean. I didn't like. He was like, oh.
and then it was like also the catalyst for actually seeing Nice get mad, because Nice is a little bit overly too chill.
yeah.
But into the plots and characters.
This is all you, man. You have notes upon notes. I kept mine small.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just go through some of these. I have down, didn't really care for most of the characters at all. Going both sides, villains and heroes. Quotations, I put heroes because they're not really heroes. I said they're all pretty generic designs, generic plot. Pretty much like if you've seen a handful of shounen, you can kind of really connect the dots for most of the characters through the show. And that's why I'm saying, like, if it's one of the first shows you're watching is coming to the anime medium as a whole, then it's probably fine.
Yeah, it's
but
a
it's
decent
just I feel like you
introduction,
should
for
probably watch. There's other things you could watch.
Yeah.
For example, I also said that it's worth noting. Worth noting that the show is not bad because of that. Plenty of shonen, even now, have the same thing where generic characters, generic plots, etc. A big one I think of a lot, even though it's been out for a while now, which is Black Clover.
Mm-hmm.
Really digs deep into a lot of the thing that makes Black Clover so good or so well done is that it really leans into, oh yeah, I'm a battle shonen. Like, I'm not hiding away from any of these tropes. I'm doubling down, if you will, which kind of makes it better for that.
Okay.
Same with Jujutsu Kaisen. We have a lot of very, pretty like run-of-the-mill things you would expect in a shonen.
Yeah.
But the way it handles the power system and the way it introduces the OP characters, it handles it differently enough that you're like, whoa, okay, so we already know who literally the peak of Jujutsu sorcery is. We've met both of them. One of them's the bad guy.
One of them's a good guy.
And one of them's a good guy. And we've met the peak.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting
Take
way of
on
turning
it.
things upside down almost. Did it end up being as good as we want to know? It didn't. But
check out our episode about that.
that's a different
it's a whole
story.
different.
But you know what I mean? There's just
it
didn't do anything different to set itself apart, and it didn't lean in strong enough to just be like, hey, I know this is generic, but we're doing this to make it cooler. And I just didn't feel like that was there. Just a lot of tropes. And I just was like done with it. That could also just be because I've also seen so many shonen series at this point that there has to be something to it that like piques you.
Yeah.
Right.
Keeps you with the story.
I also thought the names were ridiculous for all the characters. Did not like. It would have been something if we got an explanation whether it was like their nicknames from the school.
Yeah. Why is it called Nice? Why is it called Art?
Yeah. Like I wasn't a big fan of that. I just thought that was weird. And that could be told in season 2. I don't know. I ain't watching it. You should have told me in the first season. Like, I'm sorry.
I feel like despite that, I need to watch season 2. Maybe I'll get answers.
Plot wise, I said that there was obviously an overarching mystery going on, which did have some good peak moments to it. However, there were moments in the story that I felt contradicted itself.
Mm-hmm.
Big one being the mom. I think she's in episode 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And she is against basically the school that teaches minimums users. And she's like, oh, all kids should have equality. Like, minimum users are held at a, they get to go into the government. They get all these high important positions, blah, 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 blah. And then we learn in episode 10 that nobody knows the existence of minimum users.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait. Because under the whole show, I was under the impression that people were coming to this detective gang because they knew they were minimum users and they weren't.
Nope.
But it turns out nobody knows that there are minimum users. It was like a shock to everyone. And so I was like, what?
Yeah, it didn't.
I thought that
make
was
sense.
really either poorly described, I don't know. That was not good. And especially since the mom knew about all of it and she's definitely telling everyone about it. So people should know about it.
They should.
So that was bizarre. Yeah, talked about the mom. And then I think this one's a little bit more nitpicky, but I really disliked the handling of Morale, who's ironically the villain. He has no morals. He's a bit more, I guess, Joker-esque, where like he kind of just doesn't have a filter, like doesn't care about anything. And instead of chaos, he's trying to create this equality he's actually just crazy. He's just crazy.
He is crazy. I think he's he's very the serial killer vibe for it, for sure.
Like he's actually just off his rocker. But I really did not like his interaction with Nice when they first meet. Being Nice's reaction, because at this point we know that Nice knows, he's aware that Art is probably dead because of him.
Yeah.
And why on earth? Because Nice, at this point, we're very late in the season 1. We know that Nice dropped out of the school, and he is the number 1 highest grades that the school has ever seen. Yeah. And that doesn't go for just physical abilities. That goes for intelligence and everything. They test everything. And he's very level-headed, doesn't really let emotions handle or dictate how he's reacting to things. He's very level-headed. Why on earth is he bringing this clearly psychotic character to the main place where all of his friends exist?
It makes
and are going to be.
Sense.
He literally puts his own friend in danger because he brings this person to the cafe.
Yep. Why?
And if he just didn't do that, he could have just beat the villain and it would have been over. Because the villain wouldn't have had his OP power yet. Yep. He already knew. It's not like he was getting more information, really.
Yeah.
I just thought that scene was so pointless. Obviously, it's just there to create more suspense. But it's so artificial because the story could have technically been over. So I really didn't like that handling, especially since we know Nice is this very intelligent and level-headed character. So I thought that was very out of character.
Yeah.
And it was just dumb. It was just really dumb.
It was unneeded.
Yeah. So I didn't like that. And then I put, of course, we leave on 2 absolutely massive cliffhangers on season 1 just to try and bait you into watching more. And that's that we see Art didn't die. Whatever bullshit shenanigans, I wrote down that if we're following really cliche things, he probably unlocked his ability after going through all of school.
I presume so, yeah.
This whole time.
He needed to die to unlock it.
Could never unlock his minimum, and then he probably, on his death's bed, unlocked his whatever his minimum is.
Yeah.
And I just don't care enough to see what and how that was. And then also, Art is the one who ends up shooting Nice.
I think that's a good way to leave the show, but if it was written a little bit better throughout the season, I would care more.
It would have been nicer if there was more hints to, if you're paying attention to certain things, maybe if we saw, Art trying harder to have powers, or if there was ever, any glimpse of anything like that.
Something that we noticed, but they didn't notice.
Yeah, or when he is dying, we see something, but there's just nothing. It's just a classic shonen BS. Oh, he's back. And then the twist is that he's back, but oh my gosh, he killed Nice because they're supposed to be friends. So, yeah, honestly, I'm glad it's over. I will not be watching season 2 because I just got better things to watch. Honestly.
That's fair.
Just got better things to watch.
For me, I'll keep it nice and small because obviously I have a lot of similar opinions when it comes to that. I mean, I think the season finale was good in the sense that a character you thought was dead comes back, shoots the bad guy, then shoots the main character, and you're like, wow, okay, we can't trust him. But I think what bugged me is the fact that I had a feeling because you see two other characters and then you see a boat go by a like with a masked person, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be art. Like it's just
Yeah, you knew.
as soon as I saw that, I was
When
like,
he
yeah.
actually got killed, I was like, but is he dead?
Is he dead?
Is he dead?
Yeah. I mean, I think with me binging My Hero Academia recently, I was like, man, I really hope he stays dead because of the huge trope in My Hero that no one dies except for one person, basically. Well,
There's multiple deaths.
There's multiple deaths, but like of bigger characters.
Yeah, you expect with how massive the war was, without going into super spoilers, you would maybe perhaps expect more deaths.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some characters seem flat, while others seem a little bit more interesting. Like 3, for example. This kind of reminded me of like a little bit of like Stain from My Hero, where he's like, I have a power, but I need to kill everyone else that has powers kind of situation. Like that cliche core line.
He was kind of like, well, this is the thing, you're trying to make sense of his actions, because from the perspective, I want everyone to be equal. Okay, I can kind of hop on board with that.
Yeah.
That kind of is like an interesting...
But what's not equal is, let me kill the minimum holders that have powers and use their powers to give it to people that don't have powers.
Yeah, it got very convoluted. The other thing was...
doesn't that defeat
but
the
then
purpose?
he needed to be more powerful to match Nice, so Nice wasn't alone.
Yeah. Why? It don't matter.
Those are two very different things.
Two very different goals
and two
that both get lost by the end of season 1.
Just like, what? Coolest thing about that guy was that his name was ironic.
Yeah.
That was the best.
That's the best part of the show.
It's one of the best parts of the show.
I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I did feel the plot kept getting pushed forward through an episodic style, villain-esque.
Yeah, I thought the pacing was fine.
To me, I think that's always a big thing watching any fandom show.
Oh, any show, yeah.
Like, if the pacing is not there, like in a
coming from One Piece fan.
Not even that. Coming from
I just think it's funny because obviously...
Yeah, one piece. Yeah.
How unfortunate the One Piece
pacing,
anime is paced.
Definitely.
And it makes a really amazing series.
Yeah. But...
if we're being honest, people, I know there's a lot of One Piece fans. It makes a good written series bad. It makes it not as enjoyable.
I would agree with that.
For sure.
I was just going to use the example of like how long it's taking me to get through Black Butler.
Ooh.
Because that is just, to me, the pace just isn't there.
I think it's also a different style. That's a different style.
It is a different style I'm not familiar with. Even like Violet Evergarden's, like, but again, like that's...
But Violet Evergarden was ranked...
beautiful anime. It
was also ranked the saddest anime in Japan recently.
That's whack.
No, you haven't finished it. What do you mean?
I've seen the first season. Like, I haven't seen the movie.
We're going to watch the whole thing. But yeah, it was rated the saddest anime by the Japanese. But you got to rewatch it.
Like, I might have to. But yeah. Will I watch season 2? Maybe one day. Yeah. But not anytime soon.
Maybe one day.
We already know Connor's not going to be watching that. But...
not for me. Not for me.
Not for you. It's kind of for me, but not quite. Like someone who's a big Marvel fan, mutant fan. Like
I was thinking more like you just like don't like to leave things unfinished. Like
especially.
But I don't think season 2 wraps. I think it's just done.
Well, it's funny because season 2 is like it's a 7.34 instead of a 7.24 with a little bit more reviews, and then apparently there's also a movie that mixes both seasons together.
I'm interested to see if that season 2 wraps up the whole story, or if there's more and it just never got animated.
Yeah.
One thing that I saw that was kind of funny and true is how does a show like this get a season 2, but there's so many shows that
should get
great
season 2
and that don't have one.
Yeah.
So looking at you, Yona the Dawn, waiting for more seasons of that incredible show, incredible story. Yeah. Yep. Some shows just aren't as lucky, unfortunately.
But moving on. We just want to make a quick note that December is an incredibly busy month for both of us. So we're going to try and record the episode for Anime of the Month for December earlier on. So if you want to make sure that you're involved, make sure you watch it. If you want to give us your opinion on it, do your best to watch it probably in the first couple weeks of December.
Yeah, I'm definitely saying the first 2 weeks of December.
Yeah. And join the Discord and drop your thoughts on the movie. Because we are watching a movie instead of watching a whole season of a show. That movie is Tokyo Godfathers. You're looking at a movie that came out in November of 2003. The studio is Madhouse, which...
need to say more?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a comedy drama, which I'm intrigued for. And based on 151,493 users, my Animalist score of 8.28. And Connor was doing his best to kind of find an anime that kind of fits the Christmassy vibe in a way. It's kind of tough.
Christmas is tough because obviously Christianity is not the go-to religion in Japan. But they do celebrate Christmas in their own way.
Yep.
But a lot of shows just have a Christmas
episode, or it's snowing
maybe
for a couple episodes.
So I tried my best. This is kind of a big one that came up as a recommendation for more of that Christmas vibe.
Yeah.
Christmassy. So that's what we're gonna give it. We'll see how it.
See if it.
We're not gonna rank it on that, but we'll mention if it is an okay Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, some people watch some pretty insane movies and call them Christmas movies. So
That is very true.
so we'll see if that could be one of the new ones.
Synopsis of Tokyo Godfathers. One Christmas Eve, Hana, Jin, and Miyuki are rummaging for presents through heaps of garbage when they chance upon an abandoned baby in the cold winter night. Held at the pitiful sight, Hannah, maternal instincts kick in, and she insists on finding the baby's biological mother to demand an explanation. Naming the baby Kyoko, meaning pure child, they begin their search using the possible clues left alongside her, a mysterious key and a single note. However, their plans are soon thrown into disarray as they get caught up in a series of unprecedented events. Unprecedented, sorry. Can't read, apparently. Tokyo Godfathers follows the journey of the trio as they stick together through thick and thin, hoping to deliver Kyoko to her true home in finding their very own Christmas miracle.
Sounds pretty
That sounds like an anime Hallmark movie, if you ask me.
Yep. And what's the current big one? Is it Big Red the current movie this year?
Red 1, I think.
Red 1, that's what it is. What do you think the budget on this anime is compared to Red 1?
I mean, considering how bad Red 1 is doing, I'm pretty sure. I think that's what the show. Yeah, Red 1. This movie, which has like a great cast, by the way, like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and J.K. Simmons. Rotten Tomatoes, for the record, has this movie sitting at a 31%.
And note, this is what you would consider like kind of more. This is more of an action Hallmark movie, but it's like a generic,
cliche,
fun, Christmassy movie. $250 million budget, by the way. Budget for Tokyo Godfathers, $2.4 million.
We're gonna find out.
We'll decide which one's better.
Stay tuned.
I'm very excited for it. This is like kind of in that peak era of Madhouse 2.
Okay.
Just when they were popping off with some just absolute banger shows. So I'm excited to see a movie by them and see what they bring to the table. Not that they bring anything bad. They're the ones who actually did Freyrin. So
and that's the
they
top
still
anime
cooking,
right
they
now.
still cooking right now. But
yeah.
I am super excited to watch it. I hope you guys will tune in as well. And also, we'll have Troy and Eddie on as well to give their 2 cents on the movie as well.
Pretty exciting.
It'll be a
but
lot
until
of fun.
then, like, subscribe, comment, join our Discord,
follow, rate the podcast,
do everything and anything.
It helps us out.
It helps us out.
It really does.
And we want to keep doing this because we're still gonna keep doing it. But
yeah, even if no one's watching, we'll be watching.
We'll be there. I'll be watching because I have to edit it.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, turn in next week for Arcane, and we'll see you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.